Are you confident? Do you have consistency? How much conviction do you have? I'm Daniel Gomez, the Confidence Architect, a business strategist, keynote speaker, executive coach, and best selling author. On the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, we will help you unlock confidence to create consistency and develop conviction. Together, we will discover the key that unlocks your confidence. Welcome back to another episode of the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, where we motivate you, we inspire you, and we encourage you. And today, we got some fire coming in this house today. Dear friend of mine, very, very successful businesswoman, actually an amazing leader here in our community, a strong pillar here in San Antonio, Texas. And I'll tell you, she has so much wisdom to share. I want to tell you, even before I bring her on, to get a pen, get a paper, because what Michele Hoskins is going to drop on us today, you definitely want to write it down. You're going to come back and you're going to reread it. So, Michele, my dear friend, welcome to the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show. Woo!
Well, thank you, Daniel, for the invitation. It's a blessing and an honor to be able to be here.
I've been just so in love with you since I met you almost 3 years ago, and you just become a dear friend because I'm in love with you because you're the real deal. You don't let adversity come into your life and take over you. You don't allow little mundane things run over you. Do me a favor. I know the beautiful person you are, but introduce yourself to the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, please.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm Michele Hoskins, entrepreneur, business owner, and executive director for the Master's Leadership Program here in San Antonio. My husband and I, we've been in San Antonio since 2004, and we're former franchise owners and business people, and we have a set of twins and a dog named Draco, and we love life, but most importantly, we love Jesus, and we love being able to do what we can to help his people.
Well, Michele, I admire you. During COVID, you have three successful businesses now, and you are just so resilient. I met you around that season that we really got closer, and there was no quit in you. And then you were diagnosed with breast cancer along this journey, and then that didn't even stop you. And I'm looking like, I need some of her. I need some of that in me. So let me ask you this, because you said you're a business owner, entrepreneur. Why do you think so many entrepreneurs and business owners just don't have that grit, that resilience that they need to make it through a season? And I'll be honest with you, even as we're coming into 2023 myself, I need some more grit because man, there's days that as we've been growing and scaling and just new employees, new everything, I'm like, okay, God, I need some help.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think a lot of it is faith, and the Bible tells us if you have the faith of a mustard seed, you can move a mountain. Well, if you think about if you hold a mustard seed in the middle of your hand, it's really tiny. It's not that big. It's not like God is saying put the rock of Gibraltar in the middle of your hand. He's just saying have the faith of a mustard seed. And as you know my situation, what I went through and whatnot, but I never gave up on God. And I knew that he was giving me the opportunity, and I will talk about Offer-Tunity in just a minute, and that's Offer, not OPP, but he was giving me the opportunity to be able to make a difference in other people's lives. And I wouldn't exactly say that other entrepreneurs don't have the grit. They do have the grit. They just don't sometimes have a starting point. Or if they're at the starting point, they don't know how to get over the speed bump. And we all hit speed bumps. And so with having that amount of faith, you have to dig deep. You have to know what your limitations are. But at the same time, you got to follow the dream that's in your heart, because that's something that is given to you by our Holy One. And regardless of what your faith is, if you know that something has been given to you and it's been deposited into your spirit, you have a responsibility to make sure that that comes to fruition. And having that come to fruition sometimes entails asking for help. And asking for help could be a conversation like what you and I are talking, right here. And I remember one time you said to me, well, I want to make XYZ amount of dollars, next year. I don't know if you remember this conversation. And I said to you, why would you put that restriction on God? Why would you restrict him? Ask him to bless you and enlarge your territory. And what did he do? He blessed you and he enlarged your territory. And sometimes it's not about the material things. It's not about all that stuff that we can acquire, plaques and recognition and things like that. It's about what we can do for other people. And so I think if you have the right vision and you know what's in your heart and you're purposeful in terms of achieving those goals, you definitely can achieve them.
Well, I love that. I definitely remember that conversation. We had been in our house, our new house here, maybe a couple of months, and he said, "Why do you want to do that?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And I think this is what people don't realize. We don't dream big enough sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We have a God-given dream, and then we start thinking about it. Then in our own little mind, we try to limit the big dream that God puts in us.
Hmm.
And of course, I had to go to reach X amount of dollars. But now, as we've grown and scaled, this is one thing I want to get your perspective on this, right? Because I really feel that a lot of businesses struggle, a lot of entrepreneurs struggle because they truly have the wrong relationship with money. They truly have the wrong belief system about it, and they say things and money's not important. It's not. I don't care. I'm going to serve it, and I get all that. But I heard something the other day, and it really spoke to my heart. It says people that say that money is not important have never really given enough of it to make
Hmm.
an impact in someone else's life.
Hmm.
And man, that was so strong because I'm thinking like that's what I love to do is as far as is give back. And you can
Hmm.
always give back, but it's like when people say things like that, and not to bring judgment on anybody, when you say something like that, well, money's not important, it's right. It's no, well it is because you haven't really helped somebody to that extent to where you've really impacted their life. What comes to mind when I ask you, what's your perspective on that?
Well, my excuse me, my perspective is we're blessed to be a blessing. And God is not going to give us what we're not going to what we're not willing to share with others. He's just not. And it's so funny. I can't remember who the gazillionaire was that had like all this money and they died alone and they left all their money to their pet. Do you remember hearing about that? You know, you leave money to a pet and it's like, but what about the homeless? Well, what about people that are single parents, you know, that are struggling to put their kids through college? There's so many needs that are out there. What about the food banks? There's so many different things that we could offer up to people in terms of the blessings that we have. And so I think that people that always say money is not important, you're right. Maybe they don't have enough of the money, or maybe they just view money in the wrong way because they haven't been exposed to it the way that you and I have. You know, we've been around rich people, we've been around poor people. And I remember growing up, my mom told me that we were poor. I had no idea that we were poor. We say po, but you know, she was telling me that we were poor. And I said, how could we be poor? We had the best of this and we had the best of that. Well, what she was meaning in terms of that is how she would scrape together to make sure that we didn't go without. She had a different perspective of money in terms of making ends meet. Whereas with my kids right now, my kids feel like they're entitled and we have to put them in check. You're not entitled to what mom and dad work for. You know, you're going to have to do it on your own and make your own way. And I love what Warren Buffett said. And you know, we all know Warren Buffett has a lot of money, right? Well, he has the same philosophy. He just doesn't give to his kids, give to his kids, give to his kids. He's like, you got to get out there and you got to earn it as well. Because if you earn it yourself, then you have a different perspective of it. And you tend to honor it a little more than you would if somebody just gave it to you. You just think about growing up when grandma gave you like $5 to go down to the candy store. You know, you bought whatever was in the candy store. But now,
Yeah.
you know, if you go into the store with, well, you can't get anything for $5 at the candy store now, but if you were to go into the store with $5 now, you're going to be really looking at, oh, how much does that cost? Especially if it's a dozen of eggs, right?
Yes. So
You're
so
gonna,
so let me ask you this because I love what we're talking about. So you're told, right? We're not poor, we're poor.
yeah. Oh,
And but when you're poor, what are two things that you did to really, because you and Paul used to own a McDonald's. Now you own some amazing urban airs, these big old trampoline places where people come and hang out. My grandson loves going over there. What are two things that Michele Hoskins really did to shift that paradigm and not being stuck in that environment, even though we grew up in that? What did you do? What are two things that you can share with us here today?
well, number one, I prayed a lot. I prayed a lot. And I remember praying the prayer of Jabez, you know, God, if you would just bless me indeed and enlarge my territory. That's one of the things that when we really pray that, we really have to understand what we're asking for. And I knew, like I said, I didn't know that we were poor or po. I didn't know. I had no idea. I remember going to college and my mom was like, well, we'll help you. We'll get you a car, but you know, you're going to have to get student loans and you're going to have to do this and do the other. And I was like, I want to break out of that mindset. I want to break out of that mindset and be the first person in my family to make a difference for the next generation coming behind me. So for me, it was like, this is my starting point. How can I make a difference long term? That's number one. Long term, I can make a difference. And as a consequence, going to college, getting all the experience that I could, getting a great mentor. I've had great mentors along the way. I read a lot of books. You name the book, the leadership book or whatever I read. I studied, I prayed, I fasted. I did all those things to set me up for success. Now, here's the thing that people have to realize. You can still do all those things and you can still hit a speed bump. And there were times in our business when we did hit a speed bump, but we never lost our faith. We never lost our faith. And we decided that when it was time for us to leave the other franchise that we were involved with, we decided together as a couple, and we went before God and we prayed. And it was like, when you talk about money and having a different perspective of money, when you own a franchise the size, we had 5, okay? When you own a franchise the
Oh,
size of, we
so
had,
the 5, just to give a point of reference, there were 5 McDonald's, was it?
there was 5 McDonald's. That's correct. We had 5. And so there's a lot of money. There's a lot of money. But are you motivated by money, or are you motivated by what God wants you to do for other people? And that was the impetus for us to say, you know what? We want to see joy in people. We want to be able to see families come together, and we want to be able to see them smile. And so that's how we got involved with Urban Air. And we just decided, once we got involved with Urban Air, bringing families together, we do social events, bringing nonprofits into the fold. We have several nonprofits that we're working with that they have kids that have been displaced. They have no joy. They have no joy whatsoever. We don't know what has happened to these kids in their homes, but to see them be able to come into an environment where God is present, number one, and to see them walk out with a big old smile. Sometimes they walk out crying because they don't want to leave. And I'm sure you've seen that with your grandson, but to know that we can give them 1 moment or 1 hour of fun, and that they can see Jesus emulated in that environment, it makes all the difference in the world. But going back to the business model, in terms of being a successful business owner, when COVID hit, and most people don't know this, we were closed for 6 months. But at the same time, the rent still had to be paid. The utilities had to be paid. The insurance had to be paid. We had to keep our employees, and we didn't qualify for any of the government programs because the park hadn't been open more than a year, and you had to be open for a year. So whatever income that we had no income coming in, no income whatsoever coming in. So that meant that what we had in our personal savings as well as the business savings was depleted. But you know what? We never gave up. And you talk about being resilient. Yeah, I was resilient when I went through my treatment, but we really had to be resilient as business owner and just trust God. And
So
so
let me
going
ask
back,
you this. So you're closed for 6 months. There's no revenue coming in. I don't know if I would have made it through that season, because I mean, I don't know, I don't want to know what the mortgage or what the leasing space is, but I can beg to, what people don't understand is, even before any retail store outlet, the lights turn on, and I can refer to a dealership, because even before we turn the light on to the dealership, when I used to run them, right off the back, it's $10,000 just to open the doors a day, and people don't understand that. So I can imagine that when there's no revenue coming in, there's thousands of dollars of bills that have to be paid.
that's right.
What did you learn during the season? Because I'm just being honest. I don't know if we had a brick and mortar with all these employees, 2 of them at that, what I would have done. I mean, I don't know. What did you learn about yourself in that season, Michele? Because I think that the wisdom you learned in that time is, people need to hear that.
Well, what I learned about myself, it wasn't just what I learned about myself. What I learned about the power of relationship, especially in marriage, is that, as they say, if two or three come together in my name, there shall I be also. And I was too weak, as you know, because of going through the treatment. I couldn't get down on my knees and pray. I couldn't, because then I couldn't get back up. And I remember one day getting down on my knees trying to pray, and I had to wait till my husband got home later that afternoon to help me get back up. But all that just to say, I never stopped praying. I never lost faith. I never, ever lost faith. And I kept saying, Lord, if you just get us through this. And, we should never pray this prayer, because what happened after that, I'll tell you in just a little bit. I said, if you get us through this season, I'll make a promise to you that I'll do X, Y, Z. And you know what? He's helped me to that task. And now I can't go back, because then I would be reneging on a promise I made to him. And he promised that he would never forsake us or leave us. And what he's shown us during that, it was a period of dry bones, of that we were in the valley of dry bones during COVID. But what he showed us is that there was more to life than just owning a business. There was so much more to life than owning a business, because what happened, I ended up going to work for the nonprofit that I'm working for right now. I wasn't looking for a job. The job found me, and you already know about the program, but needless to say, when that opportunity was presented to me, I was like, no, I don't want to go work for anybody. I'm comfortable doing what I'm doing. I can go take care of my kids. And they made it so appealing. You work at home, you work your own hours, you do this, you do that, and I was like, I can handle this. I can handle this. And so what he did is he showed me another way to have provision so that we could take care of our family until the business bounced back. And that was all because of the faith. It wasn't anything that I did that was so wonderful. It's what was in his word that he had deposited in my spirit. And that's what we live by. And we try really hard to emulate that with our children as well. As you know, my daughter's in dance and my son is in track. And we always tell them, and it gives me such joy when I see my son, but when he's at that starting line, when I see him pray. when I see him pray.
Yes.
Or when we're there, you know, with my daughter and she's in the back and, you know, she's having her moment of silence before she goes out to dance, you know, that's what we have to offer, is we have only one Jesus to offer. And so
I
that's
love
what
what you're
helped us.
saying. I love what you're saying. So, ladies and gentlemen, ask yourself this. Think about what Michelle's saying. She's very successful in her own right, had 5 McDonald's. Now she owns these other 2 trampoline places called Urban Air. Amazing, amazing. She has employees. And when the season was dry,
Mm-hmm,
she reached out for help.
mm-hmm,
Right now, are you reaching out for help, or is pride, maybe to you, you feel embarrassed because maybe you've been in business for
mm-hmm,
5, 10 years like Michelle, and you're like, how did I get to this point? Maybe you didn't have any reserves. But you can't put your own pride before the other people. You have to ask for help, and you don't want to feel like a failure. You don't want to, whatever emotion you're having, you want to be embarrassed. You don't want to be talked about. You don't want people to say, I told you so. There's nothing wrong with asking for help.
mm-hmm.
And I can tell you when Michelle reached out and she took this ED position at this nonprofit, it was a blessing for me too, because I was able to go and get a certification in leadership through this. So you never know and understand everything that you're going through. But if you continue to push forward and maybe you're at that point of exhaustion and you feel like giving up, don't let your pride get in the way. Reach out for help right now. That's one thing I love about Michelle is she reaches out for help. Is your own. Maybe you think, well, I've arrived in your own mind. I've arrived. It's going to be dumb to ask for help. It's going to be embarrassing. I'm going to keep saying that word, embarrassing. No, sometimes we need to be broken down a little bit more. That way, God can take us higher in business. And
Mm-hmm.
I've been through that because it's just
Mm-hmm.
the only way we get fortified, the only way we get stronger, the only way we get more resilient, the only way you're going to go from 10 employees to 20 employees, from 20 to 100 is you have to grow. And this is a word, not just grow, but I want to, you have to mature as a person. And most people, they want to grow, but they don't want to mature.
Well, and the other part of that is too, sometimes we have to wait, and blessings delayed are not denied. And we have to remember that. And we can miss God. Think about this. We can miss God and where he's taken us if we go before him. You know, sometimes we just have to wait. You know, God consistently offers the opportunity for us again to be a blessing to other people, and it might not come in the way that you want or the way that you think it should. And you know, I keep thinking about, you know, you remember that song growing up in church, this little light of mine, you know, this little
Yes.
light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. Well, think about this. What if your light shines so bright that you can help other people get out of the dark? And I say that because, you know, we don't know what people are going through on a daily basis. And we were in an environment recently where there was a celebrity. There was a celebrity that was in this environment. And my son recognized the celebrity. And we have this thing, you don't approach celebrities or people that are important and ask for autographs or pictures without permission. And so long story short, the celebrity's handler came, he saw my son made contact with the celebrity. He came over and he got my son and he said, would you like to take a picture? And so my son went over to take a picture. Of course, I walked with him because I wasn't letting anybody take my kid, you know, not a stranger. And the celebrity started talking to my son, and the way my son responded, he said, who's your mom? And my son pointed to me. And so the celebrity said, could you come over here? And I went over and I said, I shook his hand. I said, nice to meet you. And he was like, you know, your kids are very well mannered. He said, I can tell you're raising them right. I'm sure you have some words of wisdom for me. And I looked perplexed. I'm like, words of wisdom for you? You're a celebrity. You got all this money. You know, you're on TV, the whole 9 yards. The next thing out of his mouth was, would you pray for me? And in that moment,
Wow.
I had the opportunity to let my light shine. You know, I said, this person is in the dark, you know, even though he was there and he had his little entourage and the whole, at that moment in the middle of that restaurant, he was calling out for help. And so we had to make a decision quick, fast, and in a hurry. Do I pray in the middle of this restaurant? If I don't, I didn't have on a cross, you know, I didn't have on, you know, any garb that said I was a minister or anything like that. It was the light that he saw. He saw it in my children. And so when we think about that, God used my children. He used my children to bring light to that person's world. And so I walked away and I was stunned. I was just like, when I tell you I was stunned, and it wasn't that I was enamored with the person being a celebrity. I was stunned that God used me in that environment at that time. And I started thinking about that. What did I just teach my children? What did I teach my children about being being the light to the world? What did I just teach my children about being able to help somebody that may need a hand up? I don't know if that prayer changed that person's life or not, but you know, I remember, I can't tell you what I prayed. I have no idea. because it was
But you know what I love about that is this is the wisdom in what so many times we see people and we
yeah,
think they have it all together.
yep,
Even celebrities, and they don't, because if they have undealt issues from childhood, from business, from
yep,
whatever it may be that they've never allowed themselves to really process and heal. And even when you go through that process, you still might have a void because we think that that money's going to make everything right for you. And money definitely helps. I'm a big proponent of right building your success, building your wealth. But that's what I love about when God said go out there and start the book, the makings of a millionaire mind, get this brand going. I'm like, well, God, who am I? But
hmm
to your what you just said, it's like, right,
hmm
so many people, when they hit a certain level of success in life and
hmm
business, they self-implode, they
yeah,
self-destruct, and they
right,
don't even realize it. And it's
right,
because they need Jesus part of that, because we're created with
hmm
an emptiness, with a void, that
right,
it doesn't matter how big your house, how many Lamborghinis you got, it doesn't matter how many Louis Vuittons, whatever it is for you. And sometimes it's not even just, it may be food for you or whatever you're trying to fill that void, right? Because let's be honest, it's not just we try to fill it with just material things, but it can also be food. That's when drugs and alcohol comes into place. But the only thing that can heal that void in us is the
hmm
power of Jesus. And
that's right.
I love what you're saying, that you have to. We, maybe right now you're praying to God and asking God, God, help my business, help me. But every time God asks you to step out in faith, and maybe it looks different than standing in front of the restaurant, but are you really being obedient to that? Are you really
Mhm.
doing what He's putting in your heart to do?
Right. And the other thing is, when Jesus cast his net, it wasn't as a designer net. It wasn't Louis Vuitton. It wasn't Gucci. It wasn't Prada. It was a net. And so when we think about casting our net, casting your net with your business means going out and bringing people into the fold. And if it means telling a story, the story needs to be told. But the story needs to be told about how he helped us to overcome. There's nothing that we do in life that, at least you and I can't speak for other people. There's nothing that we've done in life that didn't include him. There's nothing. There's just not, I mean, there's not one thing that I can think of. Now, some of the things that we've done in life, he might not have approved of, but it was a learning process for us as well. We all make mistakes. So, we have to keep the main thing, the main thing. And again, going back to casting that net, it's not about, like you said, the Lamborghini or the Louis Vuitton or the whatever. It's about bringing people into the fold. And sometimes bringing them into the fold could be through your book. It could be through the sweatshirt that you have on right now. What do people see when they see you? When they look at you, do they see a person that's approachable, where I can talk to them about, hey, you have this successful business. Could you help me? Are you willing to mentor somebody? There's a whole lot of business people that are out there that need to be mentored. And mentoring doesn't mean that you have to spend 2, 3, 4 hours a week with a person. It could just be providing some encouragement. And one of the things that
Yes.
a person that we were mentoring in business, we had warned them not to expand too fast. And they were like, oh, we want to have 5 restaurants like you all. And we're like, listen, we can only tell you from experience, if you grow too fast, if you have growing pains, if there's a downturn in the economy, you're going to suffer. And they over leveraged themselves. And guess what? They're out of business now. And so the learning for us was like, we're comfortable where we're at right now. We're fine where we're at right now. Now, there's other things that we want to do, but in order to be able to do those things, we have to be prepared. You have to be prepared financially. You have to be prepared emotionally. You got to have a stable home. You got to have happiness in the home. As they say, happy wife, happy life.
Yes,
you,
yes.
you got you got you got
So
to
let me
have
ask you
that.
this: what if someone wants to come to you and seek mentorship? What are the two best words of wisdom in business? Give us two things that you believe are important in business. I know you said prayer already, but besides prayer, give us some actual business strategies or something that you've used and taken to help you be successful as you are, Michelle.
Well, I sit on a board for a big organization here that gives out hundreds of millions of dollars to businesses. And the number one thing that they look for is the plan. What's your plan? When you think about putting together projections, how are you going to grow? How are you going to stabilize? How are you going to save money? How are you going to pay your bills? And a lot of times people don't think about that. And even if you have a lot of business, do you have a lot of money to support the business? Do you have the infrastructure? Do you have technology skills? Are you going to be able to get on the computer and create invoices to make sure that you have money coming in? There's all these little things that go into play. So it's just basic business principles, basic things of how to run a business. You'd be surprised how many people don't even know how to use QuickBooks, to keep track of where their money is going. And they rely I'm gonna work on you. I'm gonna work on you. But they rely on an accountant or somebody else to control their money. Well, you can open up the newspaper any day of the week and you can hear about celebrities, athletes, business people getting ripped off from their accountant, Bernie Madoff. Think about it. You got to know where your money is going. So you got to have at least some business sense. You got to be able to know if you put your money in this bank, how much is it going to yield you? Is it worth it to have it in this bank? Do you need 5 bank accounts? So just basic principles of being able to operate and run a business. And especially in terms of infrastructure with people, you need people, you need a place, and you need a product. If you have those 3 things, you can typically make it in terms of a business.
I love that. People. So do you have a place? Do you have the people, and do you have a product, ladies and gentlemen? Think about that.
Do you have a product that other people would want? Because if they don't buy it, you don't have a business. Do you have the people to help you? And do you have a place? Where are you going to be strategically placed? Is it going to be home office and people are going to come to you? Or are you going to sell on eBay? Or are you going to have a brick and mortar store? Those are the things that people really need to think about. We're really fortunate the location that we're in. It's high traffic. It's in a mall, I guess, that they were going to tear down or close or whatever. And now the mall is it's unbelievable what they've done to it. And so when we peel back the layers of the onion, when we started building this place 3 years ago, I was like, oh my God, what have we done? And God said, trust me. He kept saying, just trust me, just trust me, just trust me. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to trust you. But I see a whole lot of money coming out and not a whole lot of people coming in. And now it's a total opposite. It's like,
I love what you said. Okay. I love what you said. Listen to what Michelle just said. She had to invest in building out her location before the business could get revenue and clientele coming in. And let me ask you this: if you would have shortchanged building out that particular location, would it have been a success or not? Because I think so many times we don't see the vision, or we try to take shortcuts. And I believe when there's shortcuts, there's always short paychecks, right? There's always short revenue. What's your perspective on that? Because I just love that you said that, right? Because I caught that. Many people, they don't want to. First of all, they don't even want to invest in themselves, and B, they don't want to invest in the business, as far as whether it's a sign or a brick and mortar new location, or maybe, like I was telling Marty this morning, we need new computers. Like I came back from Atlanta, and I'm like, we're making do right now, but for the next level, it's like I need to just get off my horse and go make a $5,000 investment and get us some new computers, because that's what it's going to take now that we have more employees.
Yeah, well, Paul can help you with that. But if you saw me right now, I have 3 computers going on my desk right now. I have 2 laptops and a full computer. But it's necessary. It's necessary to maintain our level of competitiveness. But to answer your question, what you put out is what you get back. And so if I had shortchanged in terms, and you've been to the facility, it's beautiful. And we've had people come in and they're just like blown away. They're like, wow. Now, the other flip side of that is that you have to maintain it as well. And wear and tear, when you have 2,000 people coming through on a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, those are our busiest days. And then spring break and, all the other holidays, when you have about 10,000 people a week coming through your environment, that's a lot of wear and tear. And so you have to be able to maintain that as well. And I don't mean maintain it in terms of having to replace carpet every week or, attractions or things like that. Just keeping the place clean, and it's image. It's all about image. So what you put out is what you get back. And if people view it as a tangible product, I'm looking at your hoodie, and I can't believe I don't have one of those hoodies. I'm going to talk to you about that. But, you look at the hoodie, it's a beautiful hoodie. It's beautiful. It's well made. You can tell. I would want to wear that. But let's just say that the writing on it was like blurred. Would you want it? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. People don't want flawed product. They want, especially now.
Oh, say that again. People don't want what?
People don't want flawed product. They don't want, and there's nothing wrong with buying generics. I don't have a problem with that, medicines, foods, things of that nature. But people work really hard for their money, and supposedly we're in a recession.
So maybe that's the question to ask yourself right now. I love that you said that. Write this down, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe you don't say it right. Is my product flawed? But maybe the question you need to ask yourself is, how can I improve my product? Maybe you've been in business now for 5 years, 10 years, and just the revenue's not there where you were before. But when's the last time you did an inspection of what you serve to people, whether it's a tangible item like food, or just a place where they come and hang out like the trampoline, like Urban Air? But is there a way to improve your product? And is there a way to improve your service? Is it flawed? And maybe to you, this is what happens: is we get used to it because we do it every day. and then it
Mhm.
becomes mundane. It's kind of like what comes to mind where we're talking about it. It's like telling your wife or your husband, "I love you." Well, they know I love them, and you just take it for granted. You never do it, and then it's like one day they're gone, and like, man, I wish I would have told them I love you more. We
Mhm.
take our business for granted because we're in it, and like, no, like, wow, that's one thing I really took time to do as we just left the holidays here about 6, 7 weeks ago. Is I really reflected back on 2022 because I didn't want to miss all the
Yeah.
opportunities that were given by God. And I mean, right, I missed some, but I really took time to be intentional and be like, wow, thank you, God. And you have to be grateful even for your building. And it's just, I love what you're talking about.
Mhm. Well, the other part of that too, Daniel, is really, really important for us to realize that nothing lasts forever. Relationships don't last. God brings people to us for a reason, for season, or for life. And the things that we invest our money in and our time and our energy, time, talent, and treasure, those things that you invest in have to be meaningful. If it's not meaningful and it's not fun, you shouldn't be doing it. You really should not be doing it. And a lot of times we see people miss the mark of not being able to enjoy the fruits of their labor because um, they're just doing it for the money. And I personally think that's the wrong reason to do anything. If you're motivated only by money, then you shouldn't be doing it. There has to be some compassion. There has to be some caring behind it. And if you care, then you're going to want to give your customers or whoever you're providing that service to, you're going to want to give them the very best, and they deserve the very best if they're paying for it.
Yes. And you're so right because you came to our Sticker Shock Speaking Academy, and I'll tell you, it's grown so much since then.
Mhm.
And one thing that, right, that I had to grow was you have to give them that little extra, right? Go above and
Mhm.
beyond. And what is that? What is that for your business? For our events is putting a swag bag together. And then when we had the last one before we launched the Makings of Millionaire Mind Bootcamp, we had some T-shirts made up, and right, it costs thousands because you got to create it. It's not,
Mhm.
there's no, and the old Daniel 5 years ago, I'd been like, I ain't gonna invest that extra money, but it's those
It
sometimes
takes
we
money to make money. It
yeah,
takes money
well,
to make
well,
money.
what's investing in your brand? And I can
Mhm.
tell you that I remember leaving last year. We were leaving the building and we were leaving the Norris Conference Center. And Marty's like, check it out. She's like, what? She was on social media and like 3 or 4 people had already put on the Millionaire Mind shirt. And it just brought tears to my eyes like that somebody would actually wear something that was created by God for us.
Mhm.
But I'm being totally honest because people need to understand that I wouldn't have done it 4 or 5 years ago because I was like, nah, it's an extra cost. Do I really need that? But it's the experience. Write this down, Benjamin. It's the experience that you give your clients. It's the experience that you give them with your
Mhm.
services, with your products. When they come into your building, if you have a brick and mortar, when they come in contact with you on the phone, what experience are you giving them with the product or service you're offering them?
Right. And the one thing that we do, and I'm very, very proud of it, is we create lasting memories. And so I don't care. And the one thing that I'm getting ready to laugh because it cracks me up. The one thing that brought me the most joy in our business is that a lot of times people think that our business is just for little people, but it's not. It's for those that are young at heart. And we had a lady, she's 84 years old, her grandma. We have a skywriter inside of the park, and her kid, she was like, I think I'm going to ride that. And her kids and her grandkids were like, well, her daughter was like, Mom, I don't think that's a good idea. She was like, I'm old, but I'm not cold. And she kept saying, I'm old, but I'm not cold. And she got on that skywriter, and everybody in the park, there had to be 200 people in the park, 50 of which were her family members, and they were applauding and they were just so happy. So you think about that memory. That's a lasting memory. That's what brings me joy, being able to provide that lasting memory for our guests as they come into the park. And I don't know if we put it on social media or not, but I'm sure that they did. But you just think about that one moment, that was her opportunity to let her kids and her grandkids and other people know there's so much more to life than what's on the ground.
Yeah.
There's so much more than what's on the ground. But going back to what I said earlier, we have to let our lights shine so that we can bring other people out of the darkness. And if our light is not shining and it's dim, then we remain stagnant as a society. And I don't think that's the way the world should be.
Well, I want to ask you this question. If there was a word of wisdom that you could give us for life, what's that word of wisdom?
Oh, Daniel, that's a hard one. Like I said just now, you got to let your light shine so that others can see it and you can bring them out of the dark. You have to. The light is not yours. It's just loaned to you. And that light doesn't mean a flashlight. And I think one time, I think when I spoke at one of your sticker shocks or something like that, I think I had sunglasses on, but I stick with that motto of letting the light shine, because, we are the light of the world when you think about it. And if we can't be the light of the world, then we're all going to be living in darkness. And that's a scary thought. You look outside right now, it's gloomy and it's dark and it's wet. And it's like, okay, Saturday, the sun was shining. It was 75 degrees. Everybody was outside. And then today it's the total opposite. So think about this. What if we had to live like that because nobody's letting their light shine? Nobody's giving anybody hope. And that's really what the light is all about, giving somebody hope. You can speak something into someone's life. Just a smile can give somebody hope. That's part of the light. Giving somebody a gift card, to Starbucks or whatever, or McDonald's, it doesn't matter what it is. You just don't know. Our church did something I thought was really cool. They put together all these little gift bags with toiletries and stuff for the homeless. And so when we're out and we're about, I'll stick $5 in the bag. I know we're not supposed to give the homeless money, but I do it anyway. And I'll hand them that little toiletry bag. And, for them to wave at me and to say thank you, because it has soap, it has a bottle of water, it has a granola bar, toothpaste, things of that nature.
Yeah.
We don't know, we don't know. And then there's $5. Now, I hope they don't go and buy a beer with it, but if they do, that's on them. I did what I felt was best. I wasn't going to give them a 20, and, but at the same time, if you really need a meal, here's a few dollars, go get yourself a meal. That's the light. That is the light. And them being able to give them that, it could be giving them hope to maybe want to do better,
Well, I'm talking about hope. I want you to do this as we're coming to the end of the show. I want you to look into the camera. And there's some people out there that want to give up right now. They feel like giving up. Take about a minute and just speak life into them, Michele. Can you do that for me, please?
Oh, absolutely. Life is tricky, but life is also what you make of it. And we have to really be on our P's and Q's in the days ahead. I know Jesus is coming soon. We don't know when, the time, nor the hour, but at the same time, he has us all here for a purpose. He has something for every single person on this earth to do. So regardless of what's happening in the world, regardless of what's happening or what's in your heart right now, if you feel like giving up, don't give up, because there's so much joy on the other side of whatever your situation might be. What you need to do is you just need to dig a little deeper. In the beginning of the show, I talked about that mustard seed faith. So you think about, even though right now it feels like you have a rock in your hand and you can't hardly hold it up, turn that rock visually into that mustard seed and exercise the faith that you have and the power that you have through the word of God. God can transform and transcend anything. I am a witness. A year ago, you wouldn't have been able to tell me that I would be sitting here with Daniel Gomez Inspires, having a conversation about hope and faith, but I'm a witness of what hope and faith can do, because I am a survivor. Not only am I a survivor, I'm a thriver, and I'm here to help you. Daniel's here to help you. There's a whole world of people that are out there to help you. And, you need to share your story. The things that you are going through is not for you. You can't have a testimony without a test. So turn that test into a testimony so that you can help somebody long-term and be the light so that you can bring them out of the darkness.
I love it. I love it. And those that don't know, you've been listening to this episode, and Michele's overcome breast cancer herself. And it hasn't been easy, but she's a beautiful person that doesn't allow, she's a great example to me. And I don't think I've ever told you this, but that you can't allow your circumstances to bring you down. And so many times I remember something would happen and it was at the time it was crushing because God was building my character. But I just want you to know you've been a true inspiration. If someone wants to get a hold of Michele Hoskins, how do they get connected with you, Michele?
Oh, they can just call me. My phone number is 210-823-4702, or send me an email. It's Michele with 1L _ Hoskins, HOSKINS, at Y, just the letter Y like yellow, ymail.com.
I love that. And we'll have all her information there in the show notes. And thank you for being an amazing, amazing guest. Michele Hoskins, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you for joining us this week. Until we come back next week with another amazing guest. Right now, if you want to really take your life and business to another level, I would encourage you to go to danielgomezglobal.com, send us a message, do our entrepreneurship with the free evaluation that we give you. And then go to Amazon right now and get our book, The Makings of a Millionaire Mind. The Makings of a Millionaire Mind will help you. It's going to bless you, and it's going to make a difference in you. And if you have a story you want to share with the world, if you have that story you want to share with the world, we'd love to help you at our Sticker Shock Speaking Academy, March 17th and 18th. Until next week, we'll see you here in San Antonio, Texas, from our studio with another great guest like Michele Hoskins. Once again, Michele, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Be blessed, Daniel.
This is Daniel Gomez, and thank you so much for tuning into our show today. We'd love your feedback. Please drop us a comment, and thank you for leaving us a review. Don't forget to subscribe to our show and share this episode with a friend. And my free gift for listening to our show today is a copy of my best-selling book, You Were Born to Fly. To get your free copy, go to DanielGomezInspires.com and get your copy today. That's DanielGomezInspires.com. And to elevate your life and business even more, follow me on social media at Daniel Gomez Inspires on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Together, we will discover the key that unlocks your confidence.